Okay, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for this training. So this is the CompTIA A Plus certification training. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have questions, you can ask. If you want to certify for the CompTIA certification, or either the CompTIA A Plus certification, the Network Plus certification, the Security Plus certification, or the Linux certification, Southtech is an accredited training delivery partner, and we can help you achieve that. This training is intended to help those preparing for persons preparing for the CompTIA A Plus certification. So we've gone quite a lot in the series, and today we're going to be continuing in Objective 1.9 in the second core exam. So the CompTIA A Plus certification have two exams, the Core 1 and also the Core 2. So in the Core 2, one of the objectives is, if you're given a scenario, can you perform operating system installation and upgrades, of course, in different environments? You see, one of the challenges you're going to find when you try to fix systems, maintain systems, is that you're going to have a situation whereby you will need to want to either put in a new installation, put in a new operating system, or upgrade an operating system, or fix an operating system that have boot issues. So these are the kind of things we want to look out in this particular objective. Now, one of the very first thing that we want to look at is boot methods. So there are different ways a PC is going to boot. So that's what we call boot order. When we looked at BIOS boot order, when you get into BIOS, depending on when depending on your system, different systems are going to have different ways to access the BIOS. Once you access BIOS, let's say if you're using a Lenovo 14, right, G1X, right, let's say G1, how to access BIOS. So I've already explained before now that having to be able to use Google search is going to help you solve a lot of problems, solve a lot of issues. Now, how you enter BIOS in different systems differ. So BIOS is your basic input output system. So that's that platform, that's mini application, most times DOS based, at times some of them are GUI based, that you can use to actually do some basic configurations on your system with respect to the input output devices that you have on your system. Talk about setting up virtualization or enabling virtualization. That's where you see that. Talk about setting up time for BIOS. Of course, you can also do that on the desktop. Talk about changing boot orders. You can do that in BIOS. So the question is, how do you access BIOS? So if the system is turned off first, that's the first thing you need to do. You need to turn it on. And once it's coming up, immediately you press the on button, you start pressing F2. Right? Or function or F2, depending on your type of keyboard, if you are using the Lenovo IdeaPad. So I'm using a Lenovo IdeaPad. If you're using a different system, it's going to be slightly different. So if you're using, let's say, a HP gaming laptop, they have different what's it called? For HP, most of the times it's F10. F10 is going to get you to BIOS. So the system tells how you access BIOS. If you don't know that, you can just Google up and you get that. Once you get into BIOS, you now see an environment like this. This environment is going to help you select what do you want to boot first. So if you need to do an installation, one of the things you need to do is to tell how you want the system to boot. Where is it going to boot from? So the question is, where is the operating system? Is it in a CD drive? Is it in a hard drive? Is it in a removable disk? Is it from within your network? It may be a file or a folder, a device on your network. So you have to select that first. Is once you select that, the question is, how do you select? So this up and down arrow, you go look at the instruction on your own BIOS. You can try to do that and give me feedback on the comment section to let me know how you're able to do that. So the up and down arrow can help you select, and once you do that, you can now change values. You can change values with the plus or minus. Then of course you press F10. Once you do that, you have saved, and the order of boot is going to be CD-ROM first. If it doesn't see any operating system, then it moves to hard disk. If it doesn't see any operating system, it moves to the next one, like that. So that's what you call the boot order. So boot methods involves loading the necessary operating system into RAM so that the computer can become functional. So you could boot from drive, from USB, from all of that. So this is what it looks like. So you could boot from CD, from your network, from thumb drives. So to do that, you need to download, you need to get the, what is it called? Get the installation file and make an ISO out of it before you cannot use the installation. If you don't know how to do that, you can read this guide. I personally, I will use Rufus. Use Rufus. You can use Rufus to create a bootable USB drive. So you can download the, what is it called? You can also use this Windows USB DVD download tool. Let me check what this looks like. Okay, this is another nice instruction. I'll see how to leave this in the description of the training. So this is the instruction. So let's just see how to go through it. First thing is download the USB tool. Let me see if this is still available. Okay, there's an error page here. I think maybe they no longer support that. But let me see, click on run, system requirements. Okay, so let's assume this is not valid. So you could use Rufus. So you can download an evaluation copy, download Windows, let's say Windows 10 ISO, Microsoft. Let's come. I want it to come from that side. So this is it here. So this is the image. This is it, right? So create Windows 10 installation media. So you can click on download. So it started downloading. Okay, I think this is let me finish it up and see what it looks like. I'm trying to look for an ISO file, not a creation utility. I think they're changing most of these things, mostly because of piracy. Just a second. Let me go back. So this will actually create an ISO file. Okay, check this link. Okay, good. So please select your Windows 10 Enterprise Edition. So this is the ISO file. If you click on this, let's say the 64-bit. So this is Windows 10 Enterprise. So if you have this file, it should be around 3-4 gig, good, 5 gig. So if you have this file, this is an Enterprise Edition of Windows 10. If you have this, if you download that 5 gig file, the next thing you want to now do is to use Rufus. So this is the instruction. You could create a bootable USB drive. So how do you do it? You get a flash drive, you can format it, clean it up. How do you format or clean up? You have something like this. This is it. You just right click and you say format. You want to clean it up and make sure that it doesn't have anything, right? This is not going to allow me to format because this is the only or this the drive I'm using to like this is where I have my operating system. So I cannot format the drive that has the operating system of this computer. So if I have a flash drive, I can right click and format it. Once I format it, I just want to run Rufus. Let me see if I have Rufus here. Rufus. Okay, let me download. Or I think I might run that separately in another video so that I want to make sure my videos are not so long. Okay, let me download this 64-bit portable standard. Okay, let me just download. Is it coming up? Okay, so this is what it looks like. So Rufus is a very simple, straightforward utility. So what I need to do is that once it's run, this is it. Do you want to allow Rufus to check for application updates online? No. So this is what Rufus looks like. Very similar to this environment you see here. So see, the first instruction is what? First instruction is, sorry, first instruction, let me get, this is the first instruction. You put the drive, select the drive, select the file where the file is, then you select MBR, BIOS or UEFI. UEFI is the newer version of BIOS. Give it the name, then start. If we want to do that here, all we just need to do is select the drive. So I don't have a drive, I don't have a flash drive or a pen drive on this system. If I have that, maybe I'll do another video for you guys and tell you how to do that. If you select that, then once you select that, you can also look, it's an ISO image. Then you select where the file is. If this is the file, this is the ISO file you've downloaded, that's a 5 gig file. You tap on it. Once you tap on it, it's going to come here, right? It's going to be listed here. Then you select other features like you see in this instruction, and you click start. It's going to create and make that flash drive a bootable flash drive. It then means that henceforth, you cannot use that flash drive to format systems, to like install operating system. I'm going to see how to do a separate video on that when I have a flash drive close to me and create a bootable drive. Okay, so you could use pen drives, you could use hard drives. You can also do an internet-based update. Okay, Rufus is running, so let me just close that. And let me see if I can see Rufus. Okay, this is it. So I have it now. Okay, there you can have network boot. Note, netbook is a network boot technology developed by Apple. Netbook uses boot server discovery protocols to locate and install operating system files. I haven't used that before now. Okay, so that's one way. So you have different types of installation. For your exam, you want to be able to differentiate between an upgrade, a clean, fresh installation, and what we call a multi-boot. So an upgrade to an existing installation, a clean installation, a multi-boot, a repair or fix. So as a desktop technician, you should be able to make decision on which is going to be best for your client. Which am I going to be doing? Will I be doing a fresh installation, or rather an upgrade to my existing installation? Am I going to be doing a recovery partition? So this, my drive, for instance, doesn't have a recovery partition. It then means that if you see some systems, the way they are done or the way they are set up, you could have the main drive, then you can have another drive. So that is called recovery partition. It then means that the image of the file as at when the system was set up it's now in that second file. So what happens is that if the system have issues, we can do a restore, and it will take us back to how the system was at the first date of usage. So that's what you call a recovery partition. So it's going to look like something like this. Windows recovery partition. I'm trying to use images so that you could understand some of these concepts. Images. So it's going to look like something like this. Good. It's going to look like something like this. Sorry. It's going to look like something like this. Something like this. So you see, this is the C drive. So the C drive for Windows mostly is the primary partition. That's the C drive. Now you see, this is the recovery partition. So this recovery partition, if you tap on it, it's just roughly 5 gig, 10 gig, depending on what is assigned to it. You see, this file is a locked file. You typically cannot use it here. The system can use it to actually recover and take the system back to the original state of the drive. So that's what the recovery partition is about. So you might want to do a recovery, You might want to do a fresh installation. You might want to do multi-boot. What do you call a multi-boot? A multi-boot is a situation whereby you're going to have two operating systems. You can have Windows 7 and Windows 10. You can have Windows 10 and Windows 11. You can have let's say a Linux and a Windows 10. You can have those two operating systems on the PC. So once you start the system, it comes up with a screen and tells you how do you want to boot. Multi-boot. Right? So once you start the system, it tells you what do you want to boot. Do you want to boot Windows? Do you want, okay, so this is a creator, a moment. Okay, this is what it looks like. So once you start up the system, if you have multi-boot, if you've implemented multi-boot, that means you install Windows, you still install Ubuntu or maybe Linux. What's going to happen is that once you start the system is going to ask you, what do you want to boot now? So if you hover your what's it called, your keyboard, if you toggle between any of these and you enter, it's going to boot that particular operating system, right? It's different from virtualization. In virtualization is where you have the bare metal, the system, you have the hypervisor like virtual Oracle box, Oracle virtual box, I mean, then VMware or any of those hypervisors, you have them, Hyper-V, you have them, then you now install an operating system inside the hypervisor. But in this case now, it's not within the core operating system, it's separate. So that's what you call multi-boot. So we're looking at how do we do multi-boot. Then, of course, how do we repair or fix issues that are associated with an existing installation? Large-scale or customized installation might use the following methods: unattended installation, remote network installation, image deployment. Image deployment is where you have, the way this system is now, currently my system, I'm going to create an image of it, then use it and replicate it somewhere else. Okay, so upgrades. Unattended installation. So unattended installation. So it's where you create the appropriate type of answer file for the installation type. Microsoft currently offers the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, so you can check this up. So an upgrade is where you're going from a lower version to a higher version. In the last series, we looked at different versions of Windows when we are launched, and of course their end of life. So this in place upgrades do not delete the previous installation, which means the user can retain apps and settings as well as personal files. So how do you do that? You go to settings, update and security, Windows update. So this is just updates. Then you have clean installation. So a clean installation is typically where you're going to now do a format, where you're going to clean up everything that is on the drive and you do a fresh installation. Okay. So during the installation process, be prepared to confirm, enter, select, or provide the following settings. Information media options when prompted. So you have custom installation, you have edition of Windows you're installing, then you have language. So while in doing installation, you're able to select any of these. In the coming days, as time permits, I'm going to see how I can pick up some of the labs, some of the hands-on, and run them on the channel. So for custom installation, that's clean boot, edition of Windows you're installing, you have to select. In the previous what's it called series, we looked at the different editions. So we have the home, we have the student edition, we have the enterprise edition, we have the education edition, we have quite a lot of editions. So you need to indicate which of them that you want. And you must also make sure that you should have the license for that particular version. Then, of course, your language. Location, it's going to be home, office. These are very, very straightforward options for you to pick and select. Very important, it's your network settings. And some of the steps, you can skip them and do them when the installation is complete. Things like network settings, your wireless connection. Partition, do you indicate to create a partition? So a partition is a section within your drive is just to segment your drive. So you can create a partition so that you can have a partition for, let's say, a section for, let's say, home, a section for office, a section for your backups. So that way the drive is divided into sections. And you can do that in disk management. So create and format hard disk partitions. So if you go to your disk management utility, you can be able to do partitioning. But you're able to do partitioning after installation only if you have a partition already. Like this partition now, this is what the EFI system uses. This is my recovery partition, like I told you about. If I have a separate partition, not this, I'll be able to create a fresh partition. So since I don't have, I'll not be able to create this. But if I'm doing a fresh installation, you can give me room to be able to create a partition. So you see, I can't make a partition. Let me see. Mark partition as active, change drive letter, shrink volume. I will not be able to create a partition. Let me try this. I will not be able to do that. Yes, because these are like core section, the main drive for the system. But if I put in a flash drive here and I right click, I'll be able to create a new partition. Creating a partition is like saying I have a 16 gig drive. I want to split it and divide it into 8 and 8 or 4 and 12. Okay, you select your time zone, then of course you select your username and password or company name, then the work group. We talked about work group earlier on. Repair installation. So a repair installation is an installation where the base file is corrupted, or the boot file or the boot section or the registry is corrupted. So here you want to do a repair. And one of the easiest way to do it is to put an installation disk and go to safe mode. From rather go to BIOS. From BIOS, you boot from the CD. Then once you boot from the CD, next you want to select the CD. Then you boot up. Once you boot up, you now select repair or repair installation. So this is what it looks like. Windows repair. So this is what it looks like. Most of us might be conversant with this. So once your system have an issue or it's not booting to desktop, it might present this kind of situation to you. So system restore is going to be that you want to take the system back to an earlier restore point. So if you've not created any restore point before then, it's going to be difficult for you to go back. So how do you create a restore point? You can say create restore point. Create a restore point. Right, you follow through the process and set that up. So what's going to happen now is that your system is going to have a time now. All your configurations, all your settings, all your what's it called? Typically, most of the basic settings you're going to have them stored. Now, if anything happens in the future, it means you can go back to this particular date. That way, you can fix any maybe malware issue or configuration issues or compatibility issue. You can fix it that way. Then you have startup repair. So this can also solve your situation. If you tap this, at times it might ask you for a repair disk. So that's when you can now select from the Windows CD. So this is also a way to do repair. To perform repair, boot the computer from third-party software to avoid interruption for the upgrade. Inside the flash drive and run setup.exe or the Windows utility. When prompted, download and install updates. Accept the end user license agreement. Install. Select that you want to keep your personal files. Then let the Windows 10 setup process run and repair Windows. So this step-by-step guide is also on how to do repair. Like I said, you just need to have the CD, the repair disk, or a fresh installation. You insert it, run it, tell it that you want to do repair or you want to update. Once that happens, the core files of Windows that was corrupted are going to be fixed then, and you can have a smooth ride. Of course, other options is remote network. Then you have image deployment. Image deployment is where you're going to use an existing installation elsewhere, create an image of it, then you install it on another system. Okay, caution, do not use disk cloning to make illegal copies of Windows. You see, that's one of the reasons why I think, let's say 15 years ago or 13 years ago, let's say 15, 16 years ago, Microsoft stopped issuing original copies. The original copies. So that's just that. So you have recovery partition. When upgrading Windows or doing a clean install with Windows setup, a recovery partition is created. I already talked about that. So it's to help you to be able to do repairs and to be able to go back to how the system was. So it gives you that option when you're trying to fix the system and say, do you want to restore the system, or you want to do recovery? If you choose that option, you go to take the system back to how the system was the first time you did a fresh installation. So you have a refresh, restore option also. So you see, when you have this issue and you want to recover your system, it gives you an option. Do you want to keep your files? Do you want to remove everything? Depends on what the issues you might have. So if you select keep your files, that means that it's going to take the system back to how the system was the first time you set up the system, but it's still going to keep the files, right? It's going to remove the applications, the settings, but keep your personal files. Another option that is going to remove everything. The other considerations you need to look at or third-party drivers. Make sure that your device drivers, you have them, and most hardware, like the two systems we used as examples. If you say Lenovo 14, let's say 14E or 14W, device driver. It's not like previously where you have to look at look for device drivers, or you're looking at for somebody that is going to help you with a device driver. You don't need to do all of that. You just get to the net, Google your PC and of course operating system, then you can easily download all of the drivers, right? So available drivers, tap on this. Just a second. File name, then you download, right? So this is going to help fix the rest of the drivers. If it's for HP, let's say X30, if this is a PC or a browser, X30 laptop drivers, you will see result from the HP side. Always make sure that you're getting stuff from the original equipment manufacturer side, so that you don't download stuff, malware that is going to harm your system. All you just need to do is that it's X30. This is the laptop here. You want to confirm which operating system, Windows 10. If it's different, you can select. Then once you select that, you submit. Then the next page is going to list all the drivers, right? So if you have issues with the graphics, you can download, let's say this or this or this. Right. Now the question is that how do you know the specific driver for the particular PC? You could use, there's a utility I will normally use, PC utility tool. There's the name of this tool. Okay, PC Wizard. That's the guy, PC Wizard. It's a software I've used for so many years. I don't know if the still okay. This is it. File hippo. I'm sure that my file will be clean. So just a moment. Okay, this will it be? Click on this. I want to be sure I'm downloading the right thing. I'm going to close this. That has the malware. I want to be careful. Another way you can also know is to do system information. You might be able to pick up the actual, because for you to get the software of the PC you are running, or the device hardware, or rather the software, you need to get the actual hardware. I think the blocking notification allow for this site. Allow for this site. So let me refresh. Still downloading. Not yet. Hardware resources, components, multimedia, display. So to know the video graphics, so this is the video graphics card. The name is Intel UHD graphics. So I can say I'm looking for Intel URD. Sorry, I'm looking for Intel UHD graphics driver, right? Windows 11. I can add, let me see, Intel Corporation, which of them? Just a moment. So for 11th generation computers, processor graphics driver. So this is it. Windows 10 and Windows 11. So if you download this driver and install, it's definitely going to work because that's the exact driver for the hardware I have on my PC. So before you install the device driver, make sure that it's exactly with respect to what you have there, or you get to the manufacturer side, or you get a utility that can detect. I don't know why this is not downloading. A utility that can detect the device hardware. Then of course you can now site seems to have a malware. Let me see if it's going to download this time around. Okay, it's not doing that. So you get a utility that is going to detect the hardware. Once you detect that, then you can now search for the exact driver. Okay. Partitioning method. So that's fair ways to do partitioning. You could use so whether Windows is being installed to an empty hard drive or to a hard drive that has been assigned space for multi-booting, at least one new drive partition must be created. To do this successfully, you need to understand the difference between the following: master boot record. I talked about master boot record when we're looking at hard disks. This is refusing to download. When we're looking at hard disks, master boot record. So that's where you have the operating system files. That's where you have them, and that's where they boot out from. Then, of course, your primary extended partitions. Then you have extended partitions and logical disk drive, dynamic and basic disks. So this concept enabled you to understand how multi-boot happens, and of course, what it means to create new partitions. So for the steps, a hard drive cannot be used until it is prepared for use. Understand that. That's why if you get a new drive, or you get a new pen drive, or you get a new CD drive, they all use partitions, they all have records, they have sectors. The very first thing that you are supposed to do is to format. And once you format, what happens that it creates a partition. It can be one whole partition, or it can be you can create multiple partitions. So you create the partition, then you format and assign drive letters. So primary partition is the active, is the bootable partition. In my case, this guy is my primary partition because it's the C drive. So if I say CDF drive, Windows partition. So you see a particular PC have multiple drives, like in this case now. So this system has a first drive, local disk C drive, has another drive, they have a CD-ROM. So this is the primary partition. That's why you are seeing the Windows icon here. In my case, that's why you are seeing the Windows icon. I think I'm using a small extra large icon. Okay, let me use a large icon. So are you seeing? This tells you that this is where you have the Windows. So I can't delete this. It won't allow me to do that. And see that green stuff is active. So you see this case, this is Windows 10, I guess. This is Windows 11. That's why it's showing this way. So this is Windows 10. So that's what you mean by active primary partition. Okay, so you have extended partition. That's the other ones aside the primary partition. That is this other guy is the what's it called? The partitions that's not the primary. I think this is a better image for us. Let's open this in a new tab. Good. So this is my primary partition. This is my secondary partition. This is my other partition. And for Windows, typically starts from, and most operating systems typically start from C. Okay, let me ask ChatGPT, why primary partitions of operating systems called C drives and other letters for the secondary partition. Explain this in simple terms for a student preparing for CompTIA A+ certification. So what's the reason behind, let's call it a C drive? Okay, imagine a big cabinet with multiple drawers. Each drawer can hold different things. Now, to keep things organized, you label the drawer with letter A, B, C, D, and so on. In early days of computers, the first two letters or drive were often reserved for floppy drives. So drawer A was the first floppy drive and drawer B was the second floppy drive. Floppy drives were like small storage boxes you could insert and remove from these drawers to access different sets of information. Yes, I can remember I used floppy drives. Floppy drives used to be 1.44 MB. Floppy drives. You'd never see them again. So this is what the floppy drive looks like. This is a floppy drive. Then this is the diskette. So you call this the diskette, then you call this the drive. So you don't have this anymore again. Memories, right? So this is the inches. It's 5.25 inches. Then it's what's it called? It's 1.44 MB, right? Size. So on your computer, you're going to be able to floppy drives in computer. So in your computer, you're going to have the disk drive, then you're going to have the hard disk, then you're going to have the CD-ROM. So the hard disk is hidden inside, whereas this is the floppy drive, then this is the CD drive, right? You no longer have, people don't really use CD drives again, and people use external hard disks now. So let's go back. So the A was used for the first floppy, the B was used for the second floppy. As technology evolved, hard drives became the primary storage for most computers. So we simply started labeling the hard drives as what? C. Hope you get that? Then USB drives D and E and that. So if you have a CD, you see a CD-ROM, so it's typically going to take E. So this is C, this is D, this is E. It's assumed that drive letters, the floppy drive is going to take A and B. I think that clarifies that. That's a little bit of history. So MBR versus GPT partition type. So master boot record partitions are supported by classic Chrome BIOS as well as UEFI firmware. MBR supports maximum of 2 terabytes and up to 4 primary partitions. That's to say that you can have more than 1 partitions. A global unique ID partition table, that's global partition table, support drives up to 256 terabytes and up to 128 primary partitions. GPT is more reliable than MBR because it protects the partition tables from replication and it is cyclic redundancy check. Redundancy, you have to look at sustainability, you have to look at backups, you have to look at being able to make sure that we don't have business discontinuity. So anytime you hear the word redundancy, think about, I don't want to have an issue. I don't want to have a situation whereby the hard drives, for instance, in this scenario, is done and cannot be used again, right? So there's always that check to make sure that that drive is up and running, which is a plus. Okay, disk preparation using MBR. So you just need to right click and format. You have a lot of grammars here. Creating partition during Windows installation. So if you are installing Windows, it gives you that partition. If I say, I need step by step on how to install Windows 11 using a CD Windows disk, right? So it's a very straightforward process, something you can do. So you just have to make sure that you have the CD there. Then you insert it, make sure you are booting from CD. Once you are booting from CD, then you follow the instructions, next, till you are in desktop. So let's see the instructions and let's just go through it. Okay, so it's done. Let's see what it looks like. Very nice, awesome steps. I need a step-by-step on guide on how to install Windows 11 using a CD Windows disk. So make sure your PC meets the minimum requirement of Windows 11. Don't forget, that's what we've always said throughout this training, that one of your responsibilities as a PC technician, as a IT support specialist, is to solve problems. You're going to solve business problems. And one of the problems that a business can have is that they have a PC, they have a tablet, they have a mobile, and it has operating system issues. Now, before you do any installation, either fresh, upgrade, you must make sure that that particular hardware meets the minimum requirement. And what's the minimum requirement? We've looked at this before now. For Windows 11, I think it's 2 gig RAM, 2 gig hard disks, and I think 1 gig RAM. You can check that up, minimum requirement for Windows 11. We did that in the previous series. It's just 1 gigahertz processor, 4 gig memory, and 64 gig or greater space. This is for Windows 11. But you see, for each of the requirements, there will always be a recommended and a minimum. So there's a minimum, there's a recommended. So this is processor, memory, storage. So this is the minimum requirement for Windows operating system. And it supports quite a lot of other nice stuff, right? Virtualization. You could use memory, 4 gig or greater, processors, 2 or more virtual processors, and all of that. Okay. Let's get back. Then back up any important data. Very key. You must make sure that you back up any important data you have before you start trying to do any upgrades or do any installation, so that you don't lose anything in case if there is data loss. Inside the Windows 11 CD into your computer. Now, you need to now set up boot. Restart your computer. Once you start up your computer, you want to make sure that you go to BIOS and make sure you select CD to be your first boot. We've talked about this a while ago. Then after the reboot, it's going to come up. Once it boots up now, after you have selected that it should boot from CD, now you now have to it asks you, it will prompt you to pick a key. So the Windows message looks like this. Prompt to boot from CD BIOS. So this is what the environment looks like. Okay, let me not add BIOS in my search. Prompt to boot from CD. So you see something like this. Press any key to boot from CD. But you have to first configure the system to be able to boot from CD. If you do that, once you restart the system, it will now tell you, press any key to boot from CD. So once it brings out this message, you can just do what? Tap any key, and it's going to, you can now move to the next stage. Now you just keep doing next, install now, activate Windows, you get the key, then you put in the key, then you accept the license. Then you decide which type of installation you want to do. Then you create partitions if you want to. Then you install Windows. Then you select your region and you are good to go. You have installed Windows 11 using a CD. Okay, that's that. Caution, be careful. Whatever partition you select for the installation will be formatted. So if you have, let's say, a drive that has 2 partitions, if you select one of the partitions, it will always format. It must clean up and format the drive before it imputes Windows into it. Okay, that's just different types of partition. Upgrade consideration. So make sure you back up your files. Backing up file is very important. Check for your applications and your drivers to make sure that you have backward compatibility if you are installing a lower version of an operating system. Prerequisites, we talked about this before now. For Windows 10, this is 1 gig, 1 gig RAM, 16 gig. For Windows 11, 4 gig RAM minimum. So you cannot install Windows 11 on a 3 gig or a 2 gig RAM. Hard disk space, you should have 64 gig at least or higher. What else again? Trying to look at for important things. And if you want to upgrade, if you need to upgrade or update, most times you can turn it on. You can go to settings, update and security, Windows update, or you just click on search and you say Windows update, right? You'll get to that environment and you can turn on your update on or off. So let's see what it looks like. So fix issue, I have some pending updates because I paused my updates. If I fix these issues, it gives me option. I can go to advanced options also and turn on or turn off my updates. So I hope that's clear. You could ask questions in the group if you have any troubleshooting issues, if you have any issues that have to do with Windows updates or all of that. So that's why it's called features updates. Ask yourself, what do you have in those updates? Fix patches, security issues. So any vulnerability that is in the operating system, what happens is that the vendor creates the patch for it, creates a solution for it, put it on their servers. You that is a user of this particular application, once you update, you pick up that patch, then you update and you fix those vulnerabilities. So I think in the next series, we're going to be looking at common features and tools of Mac desktop OS. I think we should consider them in this same video. The next thing is identify common features and tools of Mac OS desktop OS. I think nothing so much here. Understand that the file types for Mac OS is DMG, this and Dix image file. Or rather, yes, for macOS is DMG. You have compressed installation file is .pkg, that's like package. For file extension, in case the file holds an executive application, is .app. In the App Store, understand that the App Store is the marketplace for Mac. Then on installation process, let's look at that briefly. Just like in Windows, in Mac also, uninstalling is not a complicated process. So you can easily delete an application. Installing apps on Mac computer is not a complicated process. From the Finder menu, access the application folder, locate the application to be deleted, and drag it to the trash. And that's straightforward. Okay, let's move on. I want to see how much we can cover. Apple ID and corporate restriction. One thing you need to understand is that Apple, unlike even other operating systems, is very, very strict. I can very much understand even deploying apps to the Apple Store is a whole lot of issues. For Android, just think $25. You have a pay the developer fee. You could easily put up an application for iOS, even with paying the, I think, is it 80 or 100? I can't remember now. iOS developer fee. Is it 100? Okay, 99. Yes, $100. So if you want the enterprise, is $299. This will give you to able to deploy quite a lot of apps and have some other added advantages. For Google, for Google Play developer fee, just $25 terabyte. So once you pay this, you could easily, even paying the $99, you can't actually do the process to even onboard it to be able to upload an app is a terrible experience. It's very, very stringent. It's very, very there's a lot of much ado to it. So it's because of their restrictions. Apple always wants top-notch quality apps on their platforms. So best practices on Mac are not different from any other operating system. Apple computers were thought to be less vulnerable to virus infection, but it's no longer true. I normally tell my students that it's just because you have less devices on the iOS platforms and the Mac platforms, then you have less hack value. That's why it looks like if they have the number of users you have on, let's look at it. Mac OS users worldwide versus Windows. So you see the gap is much, right? So I think Windows is controlling about 70%. The Mac is taking just 1/5, roughly about 20%, 24, 25%. So you see 69-17. So anybody, if you go to a river to catch fishes and you have 69 fishes to catch, then if you throw in your net as a hacker, there's a high likelihood that you're going to catch fishes. Then you have another river, you have 17 fishes. If you throw your net, you have less likelihood to catch a fish. Does not mean that you're not an expert or you're not a hacker to catch a fish, but just because you have less persons using these operating systems. So I think that addresses the issue of vulnerable, which operating system is most vulnerable. You can let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section, and we can take up the conversation from there. Backups. It's possible to also do backups on Mac operating system. What else is important? Trying to pick out the most crucial and important items. Then antivirus and anti-malware updates. It was widely believed that macOS was immune to virus, like I said earlier on. Although Mac is not targeted nearly as much as Windows, an unprotected macOS can be used as an infection vector for Windows machines that connect to it. So the ClampVacNet is an open source antivirus app available for both macOS and Linux. Understand that Saltec is also been a distributor for what was the name again? Avast acquired by AVG for the past, I think, for like 5-6 years counting. So if you also need licenses, especially enterprise licenses in large scale for AVG, you could reach out and we're going to let you know how to get that. So you have AVG Enterprise Backup Solutions. We can get you started, either for Windows or for Mac or for Linux. If you need 10 licenses, 50 licenses, 100 licenses, 1,000 licenses, we could get that to you. OEM licenses, no box, just the key directly from AVG. Updates and patches. macOS has a variety of options for system updates in the software update section of system preferences. So it's also possible that you can do updates just like you have in Windows. Okay, so key preference highlighted in the A+ objective is display, network, printers and scanners, and also security and privacy. So for exams, you want to make sure that you get that out of the way. Other features are multiple desktop. Just like for Windows, you can also have multiple desktop. Control key with the right or left arrow can help you. These desktops can be navigated by swiping up with 3 or 4 fingers on your trackpad. I used to see a journal one time. It's just like even on Windows or Mac, If you tap with one thumb, two thumb, three thumb, four thumbs, okay, let us do a differentiation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 thumbs, normal clicks, right click, normal clicks and together, and normal clicks and at once in Windows and Mac OS. Differentiates in a tabular format. Like I've already, like always, that one way to learn is to do comparative analysis. Comparative analysis is going to expose quite a lot to you. Yes, it's not really getting my my answers, my question properly. So it said, it sounds like you're asking how different number of fingers are interpreted in Windows and Mac, right? You see, so when you have one finger, when you tap one finger, you can move the cursor with one finger. Same thing applies for Mac. If you use two fingers, you could scroll, right? Same thing applies here. So 4 fingers, 5 fingers. So you could activate the launch pad to show the desktop. Thumb click, right? All at once, first click or deep press. So you want to practice these 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers, 4 fingers, 5 fingers, and what it means for the different operating system. It's a very good way to, like, I will normally tell my students that if you can use your keyboard very well without using an external mouse, it then means that you're on your way to becoming the power user. Okay, what else again is important for me to cover? So you have iCloud. iCloud is for storage. Remote disk dock. A dock is just the quick launch bar on your Mac operating system, just like we have what we call the tax bar. The image is also crisp and clear. File vote, you can enable or disable it. And then you have the terminal, just like we have in CMD, so it's called terminal. On Windows, we call it CMD. First quit, you could do Command, Option, and Escape for Mac. So I think in the next series of videos, I'm going to be considering common features and tools of the Linux client desktop OS. Or I'm going to substitute this with the Linux features we have in the Cybersecurity Operations Associate course. Okay, thank you very much. If you have questions, don't forget to ask as you prepare for your exams. In the common series, I'm also going to be talking about exam dorms, talking about preparing for exams and making sure that you have your A+ certification.